Okay, well, the offseason in the NFL never stops. And so we're at the owners are having the league meetings this week down in Florida, in Miami, I think. And so up for debate, I guess, is the fact that the quarterback sneak, or as it's become known lately as the Tush Push, is up for extinction, to be voted out simply because the Philadelphia Eagles got so good at it that it can't be stopped. Therefore, it must be illegal. And I think it's the owners have set a dangerous precedent with legislating things out of the league, like starting with the quarterbacks, protecting their biggest investment, the owners, that is. And now you can't land on a quarterback when he's in the pocket with your full body weight. If you do, that's not only going to bring a penalty, but it's going to, you're going to receive a stiff fine for doing it. And I think this is where someone like Roger Goodell, this is where he earns his money, if he's any good, is that he protects the game from the owners. Because nobody watching the game today, in my opinion, likes watching the contact that's been legislated out of playing defense. And so, again, the dangerous thing the owners are doing is destroying their own game. So I think this is where Roger Goodell steps up and says, no, this is where I separate myself from the owners and I act on the betterment in behalf of the fans and the game itself. Then we've got the Pittsburgh Steelers and this weird thing going on between them and Aaron Rodgers, which, Rodgers is 41 years old. The last couple seasons he spent in New York, he spent, 4 plays as a starter before he tore his Achilles tendon. He starts out, in the offseason and brings all the players that he wants over, and then they lose, out of the gate, and then the head coach gets fired. Now, somehow he thinks at 41 years of age, he should be paid as an elite quarterback, which makes no sense to the Steelers, makes no sense to any other team. Otherwise, by now, he would have been signed. And so the Steelers know that at 41 years old, Aaron Rodgers' best days are behind him. He's not 31. And therefore, no other teams have wanted to sign him either. And I think what the Pittsburgh Steelers are doing is they want to draft a quarterback. And at drafting at position they're in at 21 right now, they're not going to get most likely one of the top quarterbacks. And so, in my opinion, let Aaron Rodgers flounder around and then go draft one. And I think at 21, the likely scenario there is that they move up and trade with a team like the Bears, who are the number 10th pick. And anyway, I think Aaron Rodgers is definitely going to wait till after the draft because he doesn't want to happen to him what happened to Kirk Cousins last year. But I think the Steelers, though, they're actually the ones that own the cards here. I think they go draft the guy they want and let Aaron Rodgers sit on the sideline or retire, one of the two. And then the last thing here is the Colts. Shane Steichen came out lately and said that Daniel Jones and Anthony Richardson are going to battle it out for the number one job. They're both going to share reps equally throughout the offseason and training camp. And it makes me think back to 1995, my second year in Chicago, when, the first year I had lost the job to Steve Walsh, mostly due to injury. And then Dave Wannstedt in the offseason said, hey, you guys are going to battle it out, and whoever wins, wins. And it went on to me having the best season Indy Bears quarterbacks ever had in a single season, and that was in 1995. And so maybe it will raise the level of play between Daniel Jones and Anthony Richardson, because up until this point, neither one has really, they've both been drafted in the first round, but neither have played like it. And so maybe this will, help, uplift at least one of their play. So anyway, we'll see what happens. But anyway, it's interesting now, with these owners meetings going on, what exactly is going to come out of that and what rule changes are going to take place in the NFL draft. And it seems to be Cam Ward is everybody's thought to be the number 1 overall pick going to Tennessee. The Browns also in desperate need of a real quarterback. It's an intriguing situation for them because Shadur Sanders is potentially could be that guy. However, my thoughts on Shadur are this, that not a big deal that he lacks great arm strength. So did players like Joe Montana. But I think what Shadur lacks is he's got this lackadaisical footwork where it's just kind of a plodding back, taking his time, getting rid of the ball towards things, and that just doesn't work. And if you look at Montana, okay, maybe he did lack great arm strength, but he was a phenomenal athlete, great footwork, accuracy, anticipation, could move defenders. Unlike him, Shadur doesn't have Bill Walsh as his coach. He's got his father, Deion. And for that reason, I don't think the Browns will select Shadur. I think a more likely scenario is that they take Penn State's rush edge, Abdul Carter, and pair him up alongside or opposite their best player, Myles Garrett. So I think Shadur Sanders starts that fall backwards, and I'm not sure exactly where it stops. Moving on, safety. The safety, Georgia safety, Malachi Starks is one of those game-changing safeties. Smart, athletic, could play a number of down in the box, back at free safety, could even substitute in a nickel corner or corner. And myself, having played with somebody like Benny Blades in Detroit, Benny out of the University of Miami, I think was our 3rd overall pick. He was there before I got there, but an impactful player nonetheless. Now the Bears, they have the number 10 spot in the draft, and it's widely known that they need an edge rusher and potentially a left tackle. My thought is that with the number 10 pick, they could package that to a potential trade partner. Let's say the Pittsburgh Steelers, who I think they're picking at 21, desperately need a long-term solution at quarterback. And so someone like them could be desperate enough to move up. And then the Bears could land themselves a current NFL starter at one of those positions, either edge rusher or left tackle, and then still have a good enough draft choice selection to land somebody like Malachi. So we'll see. But I think that's an interesting scenario, and we're going to see a lot of, I think, draft day moves, and that could be one of them. Then, lastly, let's talk about Brock Purdy, who, has been playing phenomenal with the 49ers at quarterback ever since being selected as the last pick of the draft. And here he's got another year to play on his rookie contract where he's going to make slightly over $5 million this year. But now in this offseason, the 49ers have seemed to let a lot of the playmakers, starting with Deebo Samuels, walk out the door. And now you're going to pay Brock Purdy? That makes no sense to me. Brandon Ayuk is a perfect example. Last year, he held out all offseason, including training camp, only to be paid every nickel he asked for once training camp was over, and then the season begins and he gets hurt. And I don't understand the 49ers, for as good as they are coached, the talent they acquire is amazing. I still can't believe they haven't won a Super Bowl or two with Kyle Shanahan as their coach. But this is the kind of situation that scratches people's heads like, okay, I get paying Brock Purdy. He is a top-tier quarterback. But how is it you let all of his weapons walk out the door before signing it? It doesn't make any sense to me, but I don't know. So anyway, that's my take on a few takes before the NFL draft coming up. Okay, it's now time to talk a little pre-draft. And here's so far my two of the NFL's most improved teams just in the offseason. With the first at the top, I believe, is the Chicago Bears. They started out and landed the top head coaching candidate out there, I believe, in Ben Johnson. And then they followed that up with one of the, if not the best, free agency periods in the NFL. So in addition to Ben Johnson brought his dominating attitude and mindset, which they then did when it comes to free agency, because they had the second most available cap space and used it, but just didn't spend freely. They spent it wisely. And so they shored up both sides of the offensive and defensive lines. And now they're poised in the draft with the number 10 pick. They've got picks, I think it's 39 and 41 in the second round. And they've got picks, I think they've got 7 draft picks overall. And so I think the Bears at this point, leading up into the draft, have made the most significant moves to this date. Not far behind them is the New England Patriots, who also got the head coach I believe they wanted in former Patriot Super Bowl winning outside linebacker and successful head coach in Tennessee, Mike Vrabel. And they had the most free agency cap money to spend. And then they went out and got Stephon Diggs, Milton Williams, the defensive tackle from the Eagles, Super Bowl winning Eagles. And they also got former center of the Minnesota Vikings first round pick, Garrett Bradbury, who also, like me, went to NC State. And so they're on a mission themselves to completely revamp what's been going on there for the last 4 or 5 years. And so I think those two teams come out poised and ready to go. Oh, and the Patriots also have the number 4 overall pick. So I think those two teams come out of this probably the most improved, and yet neither team's played it down just yet. And now switching back to the Bears, with that number 10 pick, here's a likely scenario, a very real possibility of what could happen there. The Raiders have the number 6 pick, and we all know Pete Carroll from his days back in Seattle with Marshawn Lynch loves a great running game, which I think, I believe strongly in Geno Smith, but they don't have running back. And so I think part of that is they trade back with the Bears at number 10. As part of that deal, the Bears throw in DeAndre Swift, who hasn't really done much since he's been in Chicago. And when he was with the Detroit Lions and Ben Johnson, I don't think Ben Johnson was enamored with him either. So DeAndre Swift could become part of that deal, and then maybe the Bears throw in a 3rd round pick in next year's draft. The Bears in this scenario at number 6 overall, I could see them definitely selecting running back Ashton Jeanty, who I think, has so much upside and potential and proved it all through college. I mean, he's not a guy that goes down with the first contact. He can outrun pretty much everybody on the field. And I think that gives the Bears offensively to go along with that fantastic new and improved offensive line. Another way to get Caleb Williams a little more comfortable where it's not him doing everything. That is one scenario. Now, they also need a potential edge rusher, but they did acquire former Colts free agent. He's going to provide them somebody opposite Montez Sweat. And you still got last year's 5th round pick, Austin Booker, who is continuing to develop and provides depth. So I think those are the two, likely scenarios on draft day. The Bears also, I think, are very likely, if I was them, to select Cam Skateabu, I believe is how you pronounce his last name, from Arizona State. He rushed for over 1,700 yards last year, a tremendous receiver out of the backfield. Again, he's a man's man. You have to prove to him that you want to tackle him because he's coming after you. And I think the attitude that he brings is not unlike what they had initially a few years ago with David Montgomery before they let him go to Detroit. So I think this is a potential reset at the running back position for the Chicago Bears. Let's talk, first of all, the top 3 picks. So general consensus looks like the University of Miami, who's never had a 1st overall pick at quarterback, could have Cam Ward going to the Tennessee Titans. Then you've got picks 2 and 3, which in order go Cleveland and then New York Giants. So I'm thinking with Cleveland, they should take Abdul Carter because you've already got the NFL's best defensive player in Myles Garrett on one side. Pair him up with Abdul Carter, it seems like a no-brainer. If they somehow don't do that, the talk is they would get Travis Hunter. Okay. So then if the Cleveland Browns go with Travis Hunter and the Giants don't go with Abdul Carter, they're knuckleheads because Abdul Carter, to me, is the second coming of Lawrence Taylor. And so how do you let him skate through? Anyway, so that's how I think the first three picks may go. And then you've got the subject of Shedeur Sanders, who personally, I don't see him as a first-round quarterback. You tell me, what has he ever done that would suggest he's that guy? First of all, to me, his dad, Deion Sanders, was an incredible talent. Obviously, you knew when he was in college, he'd be one day in the NFL Hall of Fame. Okay, great. I don't see that with his son. What I do see is his son with daddy issues. So daddy's going to protect him, and daddy's going to make himself be an issue for whatever franchise does draft him. And I don't see Shadur Sanders even having the talent to be regarded as such at that level. Anyway, so the quarterbacks who I do see really above him would start with Jackson Dart of Ole Miss, Tyler Shuck from Louisville, and I know there's a fourth one in here. Oh, Jalen Milroe. Jalen Milroe is interesting. The Alabama quarterback who I think started for 3 years. He's the most elite athlete maybe ever to come out of college as a quarterback. I mean, he's sturdy, athletic. He runs a 4.3, I think. He's a developing passer, much like Lamar Jackson was coming out of college. Probably Lamar Jackson was a little above him, but I think Jalen Milroe does have the ability to grow and develop. And so nowhere in there in those other three do I see Shadur Sanders being better than. Certainly over an extended period of time. All right. So now edge rushers, who this NFL draft is sort of swimming in. There's 7 guys that are all kind of first-round pick worthy. And you've got, starting with Abdul Carter, who we talked about, but then University of Georgia has 2. They've got Jalen Walker and Mikael Williams, who will cause havoc on quarterbacks. And you can never have too many edge rushers. You just can't. And then you've got Tennessee with James Pierce Jr., Texas A&M Shamar Stewart, Marshall's Mike Green, and Boston College's, okay, I'm not going to get this name wrong. I know it. Donovan Izuraku. Okay, that's my best shot. But in there somewhere is we're talking about the Bears, who at draft slot number 10 are sitting there waiting for some top-notch edge rusher, one of whom I could have just named, possibly a left tackle. And you've got there Will Campbell and Josh Simmons from Ohio State, Will Campbell from LSU. You've got a couple other ones in there that are also top possible candidates. So one of them could fall to the Bears for sure. A couple intriguing picks, playmaking type guys who I think Ben Johnson has already fallen in love with. The 2 names out there for me would be Ashton Jeanty, the running back from Boise State, and the Penn State tight end Tyler Warren. Tyler Warren is athletic, versatile, fast. He's basically a wide receiver who can also block, kind of like George Kittle, but bigger. And so, there's two draft picks there that could slide right into their lap. I think also the Bears have DeAndre Swift, who coming into the season looks like to be the number 1 starter. However, he was in Detroit with Ben Johnson, who I don't think Ben Johnson had an affinity for him then. I think DeAndre Swift could be potential trade bait to either trade up or potentially move back and pair that with somebody that would allow them to get someone like Ashton Jeanty or Ohio State's Trayvon Henderson or North Carolina's, I'm going to get this name wrong too. Let's see here. Yeah, I don't have that name in front of me. But Almerian something. Anyway, I think the Bears could come out of this with two highly skilled draft picks at running back. One of the names I just mentioned, and someone I think I mentioned a week or two ago in Arizona State's Cam Skattebo. Again, Skattebo is he's a unique guy. I mean, he's tough, rugged, runs low to the ground, fast. I mean, when I say fast, he's in the 4.6 category, but he's got soft hands. He's athletic. He can catch the ball in the backfield. He can step up and take on blitzing linebackers. So I think the Bears have some options there. And I think this is going to be a very interesting and intriguing first round of the draft coming up this Thursday.